3 years ago, my friend group decided to go on a camping trip. It wasn't just going to an RV park and chilling kind of camping, but it was a proper tent and campfire trip. You see, I'm a chronic glamper. If given the choice between roughing it out in the wild and chilling in an air conditioned RV, I'd probably pick the RV every time. I enjoy my creature comforts, and I always have. Jake, one of the guys that runs in our little group, prides himself on being a true outdoorsman. As our group usually ends up taking trips to nearby lakes and national parks, it's become a bit of a strain between the two of us. It'll be one thing if he could respect that I'm not here to have the authentic experience and just want to have fun. But he can't. He needles and mutters about how they could be going to cooler places if only, quote, we didn't have to always glamp to get out of the damn house. I think that's why I accepted his trip proposal. Normally, I just shut it down without question, but he just been getting on my nerves for years, and just I just accepted, thinking I'd prove once and for all that I can do it the rough and tough way, and maybe then he'd leave me the hell alone. Jake planned out a trip for us and our other two friends to a nearby lake on his family's property. And when we arrived, I tried to ask where exactly in there we were going, but he just smirked. Relax, Maddie. The trail's marked. Even you won't get lost. Behind me, Chris and Luke, the other two coming with us, started up a conversation about s'mores and the supposed lake at the place we're going to, and I felt my shoulders relax. Jake pulled out a compass and led us due north, and according to him, we had to follow the compass a little ways until we found some trees he and his family had marked with red triangles. And from there, you just follow the path. The sun was going down by the time we spotted the first red triangle, and I checked my phone, which said it was about 7:30, and I also checked my signal and said nothing. The pack straps were digging into my shoulders, and Luke was huffing as he trudged behind Chris and me. Funny, despite the fact that Luke was obviously the least capable of us, it's still me that Jake liked to piss on. Jake, I called. He paused and turned to me, a familiar irritated expression on his face. Can we pause for a minute? I gotta take a piss. I didn't mention that Luke looked ready to puke, but he just seemed to see it anyway. And when he looked at him, Jake huffed. Don't get lost. I want to get to our site so we can get this all set up. Alright? I dropped my pack to the ground and started walking off the trail some. I could hear Luke wheezing behind me and obviously tired from the trek. The woods were quiet as I broke from the trail, and I listened around for the birds or crickets, but it was just dead silent. I glanced over my shoulder, making sure I was far enough away, and relieved myself. I zipped up and began to turn back when a branch cracked behind me. My head snapped back into the direction of the noise, but there was nothing. I turned and began walking back, and the crunching of leaves started behind me, and I stopped. And so did the noise. It was my own footsteps. It had to be, but I started again faster this time and nearly broke into a run when the crunching just seemed to get louder and louder as I busted through the tree line, hitting the trail and whirling around to see what had been on my heels to then nothing. I stared out at the forest, waiting. There wasn't even a rustle of leaves from the wind. It was just silence. Matt, let's go, Chris called, breaking my staring contest with the empty trees. I turned and jogged up the trail to catch up with them. As I picked my pack up off the ground, I couldn't stop myself from asking, uh, um, did you guys hear that? They all turned to look at me. Hear what? Luke answered. I couldn't quite bring myself to spit it out since, after all, what had I heard? Leaves crunching when I walked? I just shook my head. Jake continued to lead us towards the campsite, the red triangles leading us ever onwards. I looked at them closer as we passed. They were spray painted on, with each tree being marked on both sides so that they could be seen no matter the direction you were coming from. Each marker was about 5 meters apart, and at any given time, you could see the next few up ahead. The sun was nearly set when we drove through to the spot by the lake. And I gotta hand it to the bastard. That sight was beautiful. The trees all stood in glorious formation, shades of green molted with the golden light of the sunset, and the water shined a slightly muddy blue-gray, and peppered with that same golden light stretching through the trees. We each picked a spot to pitch our tents. Luke and I got put on tent duty, while Chris and Jake, our two more experienced outdoorsmen, went out to find some good sticks for firewood. As I finished getting my tent up, I glanced over at Luke, and he was struggling to get the stakes in the ground, so I signed and turned to help him. We got his tents pitched and worked together to get the other two up, and as we were finishing up with Chris's tent, the other two came back. I could see Jake looking over his tent and probably ready to find something to criticize me on, but I was proud when he couldn't find anything. Chris and Jake threw some of the wood into the spot we've designated as our fire pit, and putting the rest of it close by for later use. They got the fire started, and we all idly chatted as the sun sank beneath the hills. Luke got up and brought his backpack over, and as he unzipped the pack and reached in, I smiled. Hershey's chocolate bars, a box of graham crackers, and giant fluffy marshmallows. I glanced over and saw my grin mirrored on Chris's face, and Jake rolled his eyes, but obligingly got up to grab some sticks to roast the marshmallows on. We gorged ourselves on granola bars and s'mores as the world around us turned dark. Hey Matt, Chris started. I looked at him, mouth and hands sticky with melted sugar. Earlier today, when you ran off to take a piss, what was that all about? I looked at him puzzled. You ran out of there like a bat out of hell. Then you were all, did you guys hear that? He pitched his voice up and my eyes twitched. He grinned goofily at me. I didn't quite know what to say since I didn't want to scare Luke, who was looking a bit nervous, and I still wasn't convinced that I hadn't made the whole thing up. Well, I thought I heard something behind me. I settled on. There was a branch that snapped kinda loud and it freaked me out. Jake snorted. Really? All that fuss over a branch cracking in the woods? Yeah, I know. That's why I dropped it. It wasn't much. Chris and Luke exchanged a look, and seeming to sense that wasn't quite it, but Jake was snickering at my foolishness, and neither quite seemed like they wanted to press. We all went to bed after putting the fire out. I tossed and turned some, but overall, the night passed on without incident.